everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. We are doing something slightly different today, and this came out of a conversation I had on Discord, and I realized that a lot of times I might be talking about stuff and people go like, what are you actually talking about? And people get really irritated with these sort of basic skills that some of their teammates are lacking, and then you're playing a map, and you know your team just goes everywhere and does everything, and you go home frustrated, you lost the battle. So I figured I'll make a couple of videos. Maybe it turns out into a small series of some sort of basic, or how would I call that? Kind of like tactical approaches. So we're not talking about going through a whole battle and just explaining everything, but we're focused on one particular item and aspect, and for one video, so just it doesn't become overwhelming and everybody goes like, what the hell are you talking about? So for the first one, and just because it is so infamous, we're going to be talking about Center Cap Rush. So a Center Cap map is a map that has a cap in the center, hence the name. And when you are in a destroyer, well, there's one place for you to be on the map. And Wargaming actually has made that really easy for you because it has drawn a big round circle about the area where you should be. So if you're inside the circle, you're doing it right. And if you're not inside the circle, you're not doing it right. In a destroyer. We're talking about other ship types later, but we're talking about destroyer Center Cap rushes. Right, so what do we have here? We have the AnsiaOrchestra. While we were looking at the AnsiaOrchestra, because that's the ship I'm going to go out in. So what is important when you're rushing a Center Cap in a destroyer? You need to know what your concealment is. Why is that important? Because it determines if you're going to get spotted or not. So we have a base concealment of 6.2 kilometers. The next thing you need to know, now, I mean, obviously you don't know that beforehand, but this is something you need to know anyway when you're playing a ship. How good is my concealment in a destroyer? Because it's a very important statistic. So is 6.24 kilometers a good concealment for a tier 6 ship? Well, there's an easy way to find out. You just look around in in tier 6 and see what else we got. So for example, the Farragut. The American tier 6, has a concealment of 5.29. The T61, the Premium, 5.4. The Anshan, 5.8. The Fushun, 5.2. 6.2 is not a great concealment. Now, obviously, I haven't built the AnsiaOrchestra for concealment, but it's a German destroyer. It's big. It's got big guns on it. But regardless, so what you can do, and what you obviously want to do, is you want to say, for example, take the high-grade coal when you are going out in a destroyer, because that reduces your surface detection. If you don't have a historical camo on these ships, you can actually go and use, for example, the Seaborne Assault, because that gives you another 3% surface detection. So you can improve that slightly, but still just be aware that you don't have the greatest concealment in your tier. Now, let's get into the battle. So now you're at the opening screen, and you realize what map you're playing, and you realize what that is. We are playing Golden Channel, the infamous Golden Channel, so it's a Center Cap map. Well, obviously it is, because the video is about the Center Cap, but yeah, you get to that. And the first thing you need to look at is the enemy team. Now, is there a carrier in play? Because these kind of questions determine how you're going to approach. Is there a carrier in play? No. So if there was a carrier in play, we couldn't scout early, and we couldn't rush as aggressively as we can that there is no carrier, because what the carrier will do is take a look and see if they can spot you. And once they spot you, everybody can start shooting at you, and the carrier will drop you with torpedoes and bombs. So you really have to approach this differently if there's a carrier in play, but there's no carrier. How many destroyers are in the enemy team? 2. They're both AnsiaOrchestra. That's good news and bad news. Well, it's good news because they're not going to outspot me. Because if you look at them, one of them doesn't have a camo, and the other one has one, but I'm not super sure which one it is. So at best, we have the same spotting distance. So we can spot each other. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to outspot them. We also have a Gajamada, which is probably a lot sneakier than I am. So that should be good. Now, the next thing you want to look at is cruisers, because the very first thing you will encounter are airplanes. The second thing you'll encounter are destroyers. The most dangerous thing are cruisers. There is a Dallas and a Miyoko. Now, the Dallas is not a huge problem, likely. The Miyoko might be quite unpleasant because he's probably got AG loaded and he's got torpedoes. Both the two AnsiaOrchestras have 150mm guns, just like I do. So I have to be careful. I cannot rush just straight ahead all the way through the cup. So let's go and let's take a look how we are going to approach this. Again, no carrier, so we can get aggressive. You get yourself into that mindset. I'm making this plan while I'm watching the loading screen. What am I going to do first? So here is the infamous golden channel. Now, I want to rush straight ahead. I want to be first in the cup. And I'm a German destroyer, so I've got a speed boost. So I'm putting my ship full ahead, and I'm changing my weapons loadout. Now, why am I doing that? Well, I've got 150mm guns. I don't want to shoot high explosive at other destroyers because, again, remember, what is the first thing you're going to be encountering? Most likely enemy destroyers in the cap circle. So I want to have the right ammunition loaded, and the right ammunition against the enemy destroyers with these guns is armor piercing. Now that once my top speed is reached, I switch on the engine boost. I want to do this in order to maximize the engine boost output I get. And I'm sailing in a straight line. But at the same time, I'm making a decision, what am I going to do next? And again, this decision has been made already at this point because I know that now I'm reaching the capture circle, I'm stopping. Why am I stopping the ship? Well, I know that there is no carrier, so I'm not going to be spotted. I know that there are two destroyers, and these two outgun me. So I don't want to rush any further forward at this point. I know that I'm capping. Now this gives me information, right? This gives me information about what the enemy team is doing. Here's how capture circles work. If there's one ship from your side in the capture circle and no ship from the enemy side, you're capturing it. If there's one ship from the enemy side in the circle together with you, your capture progress is stopping. If there are two enemy ships in the capture circle with you, they will start capturing it. So your capture progress will reduce and then eventually theirs will come over. You can use this to determine how many enemy ships are in the capture circle. And given that I know that there are two enemy destroyers, and given that our cruisers haven't made it into the capture circle yet, this gives me information about where the enemy team is without actually seeing them. So let's see, what am I going to do? I'm just slowing down. And at this point, the capture progress has stopped. So there's one enemy ship in there with us. Now the Gaja has entered the capture circle on our side, and we have captured. This, again, is super important information, because this tells me that there is one enemy ship in the capture circle. This is likely one of the destroyers, because they have the best acceleration and they get off the quickest. But there's only one of them in there. The other one isn't. So I know that one of the AnsiaOrchestras is in the capture circle at this point. Now the battle has progressed sufficiently that the cruisers can have caught up. So this information gets stale very quickly. But I know that one of the destroyers is in the capture circle and the other one isn't. Now, here, what am I going to do next? What you don't want to do is you don't want to rush forward past your islands. So if you look at the center cup map, it has 4 islands all the way around. And each of these, the 2 islands on your side are kind of your defensive points. These are the anchor points for your battleships. The cruisers or fast battleships or battle cruisers ideally keep the flanks clean and anchor around that side. The slower, tankier, heavier machines should be anchoring on the inside of these islands to, dominate the capture circle. Because again, the whole thing comes down to who's got more ships in the cup. You don't want necessarily everybody in the cup, because then it is relatively easy to loop around and get you into crossfires. But it's preferable to have everybody in the cup than to have nobody in the capture circle. Because why? Because the capture circle gives you points. Now the enemy team, if they are not complete idiots, will have to realize that, we are gaining points and there aren't. and whoever has the most points at the end wins. So controlling the capture circle makes the enemy have to make a move. You don't have to make a move if you're controlling the capture circle. You can get in the position that you want to be in. Now, where you don't want to be is just around these islands, because, again, look where your cruisers are. This gives you a pretty good idea where the enemy cruisers are. They are definitely in range. If you loop around the islands, you get spotted, and you don't know how the enemy team is dispositioned yet. You can't dodge easily because, well, you're sailing right next to an island, broadside to the enemy cruisers, which is not something you want to do. So that's why I'm slowing down and I'm stopping here. But now, obviously, since there's no carrier in game, I have to go and scout. Now, Gajah rushes ahead. He's got better concealment than me, but he's going way too aggressive for my taste. So I'm just following him a little bit, and there come some torpedoes. Now, these are Miyoko torpedoes. This is the second reason, because they are spreads of 4. I think these are Miyoko torpedoes. Here's the second reason you don't want to rush too much forward, because oftentimes you get what happens is you get initial torpedo spreads, and they reach roundaboutish to your islands. So you don't want to rush too far ahead, otherwise you run into the initial torpedo drops. Now, this could have been Miyokos, but what happened is Gajah got himself detected, and of course there's a Miyoko over there. So, of course, he starts opening up on him. Now, Gajah drops some torpedoes and tries to get the hell out of there. He's lost about close to half his health very early on without anything to count for. So, this is what he could have smoked. If you want to be this aggressive and you get spotted, that's the time you can start smoking if you want to use one of your smoke screens. But I honestly wouldn't, because the cruisers have a much higher detection range than you do. So you can outspot them if you don't fire your guns. So you're controlling the cap. You have no pressure to do much aggressively right now. And what you want to do is scout. So at this point, I'm just scouting. And I'm going to move ahead, because one thing I've realized is that we're still holding the cap. We've got 4 ships in the cap at this point, including the Gajah, who just smoked up. While I'm spotted, and I am probably proximity spotted, I still don't have any position of the enemy destroyers. Okay, now we know where one of the destroyers is. They went outside the cap, and they went around through the island on the sides there. Now, that destroyer out there is in a poor position, because one of our cruisers are anchoring around the islands, on the insides of the islands, and the battleship's coming around the outside. So the cruisers will have crossfire onto that destroyer. I don't know where the other one is. He could be behind each of these islands. I'm pretty sure he's not in the cap circle with me, because I'm not seeing him. And I would, because he's an Anskeda, he's got the same detection range that I do. So if you look at that little dotted line around your ship, that's your detection radius. Because I haven't fired my guns, I'm spotted because, well, half the enemy team sits behind that island. So I'm running a little bit of a risk here, and I want to get this island. I know that Miyoko is there, but he knows that I'm there. Okay, there's the enemy Anskeda. So he comes around, so he's been sitting there. So I'm switching on the sonar, I'm reversing, and I am going to take 1 or 2 torps from this, but these are German torps, they're not going to kill me. I'm in a sturdy ship, and he's not using his guns. That tells me a lot, again, about what kind of player that is, that he's not using the guns on the ship. But from here on, it just becomes a question of domination. Now, I don't want to push it necessarily much further here, but I am sitting on this island and I am controlling this space. We're going to do a separate video on control. I'm still not doing much in terms of damage, but the enemy team can't push into the cap right now because I'm sitting here and I've got torpedoes. So, for example, that Miyoko over there is trying to push into the cap. He's dropping some torpedoes, but he can't go very far because, well, I'm here. So if you can manage to grab this position from the enemy team, you are in a huge advantage because you do know that the enemy team knows that you're there, and they can't easily push that position unless they do it in force. And then you can just from there on at your leisure you can do things. Now we'll be doing another video about the cap control itself, and I'm just gonna let this play here for general entertainment. We're gonna be doing another video about cap control itself. But what has the enemy team done wrong? What have the enemy destroyers done wrong? So for once they have not rushed the cap. You're in a destroyer. Rushing the cap is what you do. You don't want to rush through the cap. You want to rush into the cap, and then you want to, take a cautious position. If there was a carrier in play, would have approached this whole thing, a lot more carefully, because the carrier would have spotted me. So I would have gone just to the edge of the cap, see that I grab the early cap, but then stay there and wait for my cruisers and the rest of our ships to catch up, and see that that I get AA support. But since there's no carrier, I can be more aggressive. I still don't want to rush as far forward as the Gaja did, because then you get yourself spotted. Then you have half the enemy team shooting at you, and it doesn't serve any purpose to get that far forward. Eventually, you do need to spot, and you just want to get forward and make sure that you're getting targets. But everybody will get spotted eventually anyway. It's not that that your team is going to be unspotted. It's not that you're gaining a huge advantage from spotting in this kind of map, because you're in a center cap anyway. It's all about dominating the center at this map for destroyers, right? So your job is to be in that circle and make sure that circle is green. If that circle is red and you're not in it, then you're doing it wrong most of the time. So from there on, you can and be aware of what your ship can do. Be aware what the enemy ships can do. Be aware of the composition of the enemy team. Think about early on what it is that you want to be doing, how far you want to go, and where you want to get out again. So just making up your mind about these things early on is really giving you the freedom to deal with the battle as it unfolds, because you don't have to think about what you're going to be doing. Just make up your mind. It's like, okay, I'm in this situation. This is the center cap map. I'm in a destroyer. I need to rush this thing, and then then you know where to go from there. Now, just as a hilarious end note, I'm rushing this Leon here because we've won this battle. It's the last ship alive, and I thought he's gonna turn. Look at him. He was actually trying to turn. He looked as if he was gonna turn, and then he faked me out, and probably popped his engine boost. Look at my torpedoes. that I was like, dude, that was supposed to be my kill. What the heck? That was a very nice fake out. Full risk, obviously, on his side. But he still gets me with the secondaries just a second before he gets killed himself. I really thought he was turning right to dodge my torps, because that would have been the natural reaction. That's why I was dropping behind him, such that it would catch him in the turn. He actually didn't. He actually accelerated. That was cool. Anyway, I hope you like this sort of new format and this kind of more focused on one very, very specific aspect kind of things. I'll be doing a lot more of those. I've got a lot more stuff to talk about, like torpedo dropping and rushing and positioning and area defense, flank runs, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, let me know if there's anything particular that you're keen about. Otherwise, I'll just be throwing these in from time to time. That's it for me today. Thanks, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Bye.